The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.
Empire.
Are you ready for some football and football and football and football?
So there are two sides of it. What the fan wants, they will say content everywhere, on every platform, personalization and content that is as much tailored to the single individual as possible.
That's Andrea Marini, the Deputy CEO and Group Chief Commercial Officer at Deltatre, where all the screens are being evaluated and modernized. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. Everyone is trying to attract attention to the multitude of various platforms. Getting and retaining that attention, it's not an easy thing to do, but Andrea Marini and his team are trying. And in a little bit, we're going to talk to Schlomo Sprung from Forbes about a quite unique way that an NBA player is using tokenization to try to leverage his playing contracts now and into the future. But let's start this week with the future of baseball, which as of a week ago was stealing headlines in January for all the wrong reasons. This is one of the most unique Januaries in the history of the sport of baseball, when 3 managers were either fired or suspended, or both, in the span of a week over a cheating scandal that dates back to the 2017 Astros World Series year, and there's plenty more to come. Bennett Conlin joins us now from the Daily Progress, which is based out of the Charlottesville, Virginia area. And the NCAA is watching this closely, Bennett. What are they trying to do to avoid what would be a potential similar controversy in athletics on the collegiate level?
Yeah, so basically they've made a new rule that allows pitchers and catchers to both wear wristbands that will have signals or calls on them, which makes it, almost impossible for a team to steal signs using technology or video, just because a pitching coach can give off the sign and they can change the sign so frequently now that they're able to switch out cards, and both the pitcher and catcher will quickly be able to look at their cards on their wristbands and then throw that pitch, so they won't have to memorize signs, basically that.
Are they the only 2 people on the team that will have access to this?
I believe that's correct. I believe it's the pitchers and catchers. I'm not sure in the past how much sort of the infielders have done it. I know that the official rule change, though, is that the pitchers will be able to do it, as I know catchers in the past have worn it.
Were they talking about doing this? I would assume that you can't just implement this overnight. Were they talking about doing this before all of the news broke about what happened with the Astros and the Red Sox, et cetera?
Yes, I didn't have a ton of communication with the NCAA during some of this, but I believe this isn't sort of like an overnight fix like you mentioned. Given the catchers having it for years, part of it is obviously to prevent sign stealing, and some of it, too, is just with this new system, it makes it very hard to get signals crossed. So if you're a pitcher and a catcher and you get your signals crossed, maybe the catcher's expecting curveball, you throw a fastball, obviously that can lead to some issues. With this system where they're both looking directly at a card, it makes it very hard to do that. So I think that, there's really no reason not to implement this. It seems like a positive for both. I think there will certainly be baseball purists who see pitchers and catchers looking at like wrist cards, like a quarterback calling plays, and they might roll their eyes a little bit, but it certainly makes sense in today's game to implement this rule.
Listen, this is happening on the major league level. I would assume that this stuff is happening on the collegiate level as well. Is there anything that, as you were researching all of this, did you hear anything that there were some issues with specific teams and technology and sign stealing?
So that's really interesting, because when I researched it, the NCAA didn't even have like a release out. I couldn't find anything online where I was just having a conversation with Virginia's head coach, Brian O'Connor, about something else. And then since I had him on the phone, I figured I'd ask him about the Astros, and he brought up this new rule that really hasn't been publicized at all. So I looked into it, didn't find much, but I have to imagine, you look at the coverage around college baseball that's sort of grown in recent years. Some of these games, whether it's on the SEC network, ACC network, these games are going to be televised. You're going to be able to see different video footage. It seems like, theoretically, you could certainly steal signs. And while there weren't necessarily teams that were jumping out as potential offenders, it's something that, just with the sheer volume of college baseball teams, it's doable to steal signs using technology. And I think there's a reason for this, and I'm sure there was certainly some stuff behind the scenes that I would imagine people had seen and sort of wanted this implemented to make sure that it would prevent it, especially to the scale that we saw it in Houston.
Listen, we've heard everybody has an opinion about what happened here on the major league level, and everybody is now becoming very careful with what they're saying about it. You were talking to somebody who's performing at the highest levels, NCAA baseball, but has no skin in the game and what's happening in the other section of the sport. Did he give any kind of opinion about what he thinks is going on here and what the future is for dealing with technology?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So Virginia's head coach basically said that he thought there was no place in the game for what Houston did, the Astros, but he did mention sort of the ability to scout and steal signs maybe just within the game, but not with technology. I think most baseball fans and sort of people that follow the game, they don't necessarily have an issue with somebody at second base if they're able to pick up what a sign is and translate that to someone. It's just when you've got the whole video operation going into it and those different elements and different elements of cheating that they certainly want removed from the game. But it's a fine line between stealing signs in a way that is, I guess, approved, and then a way that is cheating. So it's pretty fascinating to follow.
Yeah, we're trying to figure that out ourselves. Bennett Conlin from the Daily Progress, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Up next, Andrea Marini on the future of all of the screens where you watch sports. This is the Future Sport Podcast. Our guest this week is Andrea Marini, who's the Deputy CEO and Group Chief Commercial Officer of Deltatre, which is a company that works with leagues, brands, and teams as they modernize the viewing experience in sports. Hi, Andrea. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Bram. Thanks for having me.
Let me just get just kind of a 30,000-foot view from your viewpoint of the sports media landscape now. Where is it, and how do you see it changing over the next 2, 5, 10 years?
Okay, so this is a $1 billion question.
Yeah.
So I believe we are operating in one of the most fascinating and continuously changing industry in the world. What I see happening in the next years is consolidation of the rights and of the offering to the user, personalization, more and more option to choose. I personally, I might be wrong, probably I'll be wrong, I personally believe next year we are going to start seeing somehow the end of the bundle, and we will see leagues in particular, in my opinion, going more and more direct to consumer. And then other type of bundle will start, but I think the user will have more and more option to choose what they want to watch.
It's interesting because Adam Silver just did a bunch of interviews. Mark Cuban has been open about this with the NBA, and they're talking about their ratings going down, and they're blaming that just mainly on consumption by a younger audience, and they just don't watch television the way that they used to watch it. But it's not that people aren't basketball fans any longer. But they also, at the same time, say things like, listen, these are our broadcast partners. We do value them. So we're kind of in this funny place, right, where the change is happening, but no one seems to know exactly how to give the customers what they want.
Yeah, and I mean I fully agree with it. I'm a very good example of it. I'm 33 years old, so not that young, but not that old. We don't have at home a cable subscription, but we use a lot here in the US YouTube TV. That at the end of the day is streaming again normal linear channel. So somehow you are consuming it, but when I watch the NBA, and I watch the NBA almost every evening, at the end I'm consuming, if you want, a traditional broadcast, but on a streaming platform.
So do you envision that all leagues are going to go OTT in the near future?
I'm not sure all, but I believe the big brands and big leagues have the power, the brand to go D2C, probably at the beginning in parallel to their traditional broadcast and media rights. I believe there are new business model in sport that represents the future. One of the best example, in my opinion, and is a partner of us, is Golf TV. Is an incredible business model. Is PGA Tour coming together with Discovery, selling the rights worldwide, and creating a platform focused on golf that goes beyond the PGA Tour itself. But they started acquiring rights in every country. Every golf right that is available, they buy it, and from a fan perspective is amazing. You have the power of Discovery with the PGA Tour brand. And I grew up being a golf fan in Italy, and it's not the most popular sport in my country. In my country there is soccer and then everything else. It was a pain to find golf content. Now you have everything in one platform, and it's pretty amazing.
What do you think of the second screen experience, too? We've talked a lot on this podcast about how broadcasters and then companies like yours that are helping advance broadcasters, what do you think it looks like? Is it gambling? Is it gaming? Is it something different than that? What does the second screen look like for leagues?
Again, it's a very good question. I'm not sure which one is the first or the second screen now. You always have your phone. You're always looking at your phone. I'm always looking at my phone even when I'm looking at a movie or doing something else. I think betting, I agree with you, will play an important role from a second screen perspective.
As for Deltatre, what do you guys do, and how do you work with leagues, teams, brands?
Yeah, so we have four main area of business: OTT, digital, live, and design. OTT, we provide end-to-end solution to our clients, choosing the best that there is on the market and doing, if you want, a system integration work on top of our core products that are Axis, that is a targeting UX solution, and Tribes, that is audience insight, testing, and scheduling, and Diva, that is the world's most advanced video player. And to explain Diva, we have now a great example in the UK with Amazon and the Premier League. They introduced the X-ray functionality with all the information data on the user. We have it on our players since 5 or 6 years, and for us it's been a great testament of the validity of our product. Digital, easy to explain, web and apps. You might have seen the press release we had a few weeks ago on MLB. So we build and then power and co-maintain with leagues and federation and right holders their web properties. Live is a bit more complicated, and is where the company comes from. So we started 33 years ago gathering time in Formula One, skiing, and athletics, and then we evolved becoming a digital company, but we still have broadcast at the heart and data at the heart of the company. So our live division takes care of data, graphics, broadcast servicing, enhanced production, and officiating system. And then we have a fourth unit focused on design. We realized years ago that we were doing a lot of UX and design work for our client, and we have a lot of designers. I think more than 60, 70, and makes us one of the biggest design shop in the industry.
You also have an innovation lab in Italy, in Turin. Can you talk about what is going on there and what you guys are working on?
Absolutely. So it's funny because the innovation lab is run by my younger brother, so I'm up to speed with it.
Yeah.
And so innovation is at the heart of the company. We are where we are because we have been able to innovate successfully for 33 years, and the innovation lab has two main functions. The first one is improving and creating services that then are used by one of the other 40 divisions. And the second one is looking at innovating technologies, if you want, a bit in a imperial way, and then try to apply them in some aspect of our business. The best example of it is now, for instance, they are doing a lot of work on AI and clipping, highlights, and personalized content that then we can use in our OTT services to improve the fan experience.
Did the Innovation Lab coincide with the Olympics being in Turin, or was that a separate thing?
No, it's a separate thing. It will be amazing to say it, but it is also. The Torino Olympics were in 2006, and we as a company started working in the Olympics in 2008. So even if our headquarters has always been in Torino.
So we kind of started the conversation with kind of the viewpoint of what is happening in the industry. I do want to talk about one specific partner that you guys have, which is DAZN, that feels like they are kind of game-changing the viewing experience here in America. Can you kind of talk about what the partnership is with them and how you see them interrupting what has been the traditional broadcast models of sports presentation?
Sure. So we have a very good partnership with them. We are part of their OTT streaming platform ecosystem. There are various vendors, and we play an important role with them. And I mean, I'm a big fan of what DAZN did and is doing. Not sure if they're gonna be then successful and really revolutionize the industry, but I believe that is already happening, and they are focusing for real in creating a better fan and user experience, giving the possibility to the fans to really find all the sport they want in a unique platform, and someone honestly had to do it. I was living in Japan when they launched the platform in Tokyo, and was pretty impressive in a country that is the most, if you want, advanced country technologically in the world, but a bit late if you want from a digital perspective. They came in and they completely disrupted the market, and I think the results are speaking for themselves.
All right, I'll leave you with this. So broadcasters are coming to you with ideas, and you're coming to them with ideas, and you're putting it out in the marketplace. What are fans and viewers saying they want more of in their viewing experience?
I would say personalization. So there are two sides of it. What the fan wants, that I will say content everywhere, on every platform, personalization and content that is as much tailored to the single individual as possible, while maybe more from a brand and client perspective is how you reach these fans and how you serve them the content, and these usually they go pretty well together with the fan experience, but also the ability to differentiate your offering from the competitor, quality from every point of view, so quality of your platform, but also quality of the service that you deliver, doing it in an efficient way. That is one of the most complicated part of the equation. And at the end of the day, we help our client focusing on their core job. So creating content, delivering it, buying rights, providing them with great technology.
Andrea Marini is the Deputy CEO and the Group Chief Commercial Officer at Deltatre. Thanks for joining us, Andrea.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Bram.
Up next, how Spencer Dinwiddie is trying to turn his NBA upside into an investment. This is the Future Sport Podcast. So let's take a minute here to thank our friends at 3Advance. These guys are ranked one of the nation's top app developers, but that's not all. They've helped grow a bunch of sports tech startups like Team Builder, T-Box Tour, and In-Game Fantasy, but they're also experts in user experience, cloud APIs, and artificial intelligence. So if you're looking for a dev partner to bring your future sport tech to life, look these guys up. Go to 3advance.com. They're the team to make it happen, and advance you will. That's the number 3advance.com, and tell them Future Sport sent you. Under the radar in the negotiation world is one of the most unique back and forths that you will ever hear in sports, and it comes from Spencer Dinwiddie from the Brooklyn Nets and the NBA. And Schlomo Sprung has been following this for Forbes. Hey, Shlomo, how are you?
Great, how are you?
I don't want to try to sum up what he's trying to do, so I'm going to let you try to do it since you followed this, as he's tried to bring in the idea of tokenization for investors in an NBA contract. Can you kind of explain what's going on here?
Sure. So a lot of NBA players don't have a lot of flexibility with their contracts, and what Spencer is trying to do is he's trying to secure about $13 million up front so that he can invest it in a way that he sees fit, and so he can, grow that money in his way rather than wait for an NBA paycheck. And so he has set up this tokenization plan where he has an SD8 coin where people can invest $150,000 each in 90 coins. And I think he has about a 4.5-5% interest rate. And so over 3 years, the investment will grow over time, and Spencer gets his money up front, and then investors will benefit from that bond over 3 years.
And what's the risk here for the investor?
Well, I mean, the risk is that the NBA could terminate his contract, or he can breach his contract in some way. But his $34 million contract over 3 years is guaranteed, so the risk is pretty minimal.
And for the NBA, what is their reaction to this?
Well, what the NBA originally had a problem with was that Spencer was going to try to have an option year of his contract, and if he elected to opt out of his contract and re-sign to a more lucrative contract, then the people who would invest in that coin would benefit from the potential extra money from that option year, which the NBA had issues with. And so what they did was take that option year off the table and make it more of a flat kind of a business loan in a sense.
So this never was going to be if I end up getting out of this and getting a massive deal, there's going to be a windfall for an investor. This was always just almost like a bond fund. The money's guaranteed. I'm going to guarantee you a percentage if you give me the money up front.
That's what it is now. With the potential with the the option year of his contract was that they could gain a windfall if he signs, say, a max level deal. That the NBA had an issue with. But the way it's constructed now and the way it's going forward is that it's basically a kind of a flat bond, as you said.
Is he the only one doing this, or are you hearing any other players that have interest in trying something like this?
Well, in my conversations with Spencer, other players had more interest in kind of let's wait and see what happens kind of thing. So, if a year this works out, there could be players, not just from the NBA, but from the NFL and maybe even in the entertainment world that would be interested in this kind of arrangement.
I could see it in the entertainment world. In the NFL, very few contracts are guaranteed. It takes one injury to send somebody to injured reserve and end a career.
Which would make it more appealing for the players to try to get money up front, but
Right.
It would also make it more of a risk for investors.
And what is he saying? Has he revealed what he wants to do with the money up front that he believes would be lucrative enough to pay off the investors on the backside of it?
Well, Spencer is more of an entrepreneurial type. He has his own shoe in which he paints his own shoe design for each game and then auctions off the shoes for charity. So he's always had an entrepreneurial spirit, so I'm sure he has plans in place of what he wants to do.
Lastly, for you, if the NBA really did want to put a stop to this, legally, could they? Is he doing anything that circumvents any league rule here by implementing this?
Well, what the league was contending with was that the option year was considered gambling, and so that was kind of a red line for them in a sense. Now, the NBA's current stance is they're still reviewing it, but it seems like from Spencer Dinwiddie's camp that they're letting him go through with this.
It's really fascinating. We'll see if other players follow suit or if he is an anomaly in this and taking a risk like this. Schlomo Sprung from Forbes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Before we go, just a few words about the tragic event that took the life of NBA legend Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others who died in a helicopter crash in Calabasas, California, 2 days ago at the time of this taping. Bryant epitomized modernization. He entered the NBA as a would-be clone of Michael Jordan, but exited with his own identity, known as the Mamba mentality. And his Mamba Sports Academy wasn't just a training center for kids of all ages. It included biomechanics, comprehensive sports medicine, and even training in a dojo for self-defense. Ultimately, though, it was his devotion to his daughters and the pay-it-forward mentality that feels like the real loss here. And while that may be old-fashioned, even in our modern times, has and never will go out of style. That will do it for us this week. As always, the future is now. This is the Future Sport Podcast. I'm Bram Weinstein. The Future Sport Podcast is brought to you by 3 Advance, developers of sports tech apps that are AI-powered and UX-focused. So if you're looking to create some apps for your startup or your sports biz calls for some artificial or business intelligence, you should check out 3 Advance. They're incredible. Go to 3advance.com. That's the number 3advance.com.